Well, panels, we live in a world where toxic environment still exists. We live in a world where there's a rule in every single things of life, including educations. When the society thinks that all of the children have the same capacity and have the same capability and competency in the same age. So that's why they think it's better for them to grouping the children based on their age, not based on the competency or even the intelligence itself. Like let's take a look where the children at 7 years old at least or at least 6 years old must to enter primary schools at first grader, where some of the cases that they might be not haven't reached that kind of capacity, or even when there is a cases that a first grader students is actually have a more or higher level of intelligence itself, where they can be putting in the second grader of the primary schools itself, ladies and gentlemen, where it's also but in society that they are worried that the children is not capable enough, they mentally is not capable enough, when we think that it's not gonna be happen. Because why? Because it's better for us to grouping them by the competency and intelligence itself, ladies and gentlemen. Because when let's take a look when somehow like 10 years old children must be in the 5 or 4 graders at primary schools, but actually they haven't reached that kind of levels in the schools itself. They must be put in the third grader based on their competency and intelligence itself, ladies and gentlemen. But in the status quo, a lot of society that they will judge the children that they were stupid, or somehow they will get bullying at schools, and even in this worst scenario that it will make them stress, and even they don't want to continue to school, or even it can lead to death itself, ladies and gentlemen. So now it's better for us to do this kind of alternative by when we can group them by their competency and intelligence itself. So why don't we just group them by their competency and intelligence itself, right? So because a lot of cases happen in the society when children are depressed, or even it leads to like suicide because of the stress and even the pressures itself, right? So here our stance in here is clear that we will abolish primary and middle school years that group children based on age, and instead group them by competency and intelligence, capacity to protect and to create the better educations and child-friendly schools to have a better life itself. Where our goals in here that we would like to protect the children itself, and we will create a better education standard, and we want to create a high quality better and happier human resources, ladies and gentlemen. Where our model in here that we as a government, we think it's essential for us to as a government to abolish this grouping children based on age and primaries and middle schools. The first one we will create a bill about this kind of policy, and the second one is we will socialize to the parents, teachers, and even the society about this kind of bills of policy that we will grouping the students based on competency on intelligence. So that's why so there will be no again pressures or even like a judging from the society to the children itself if they for the competency and intelligence itself, ladies and gentlemen. And the third one is we will create a healthy and happier vibes or environments at schools itself. So moving on to my arguments, my first argument is why it is principally justified to grouping primary and middle school children based on their competency and intelligence. And the second one is how by grouping primary and middle school children based on their competency and intelligence will create a better and happier life. So my first argument is why it is principally justified to grouping primary and middle school children based on their competency and intelligence. Well, we see in the status quo that most of the school is still grouping the children based on their age, not the capacity. While we know that every children have different competency, have different capability and intelligence, right? So that's why it is ideally for us that we have to grouping them based on their competency and intelligence itself to make the learning process is more effective. Where there must be two cases happening here. The first one is where the children that actually not their age have the higher competency or even higher intelligence that putting in a lower grades, it will make them feel like lazy. They will think that I know how to do this one, and this is so easy for me, and makes them less interesting to education and to study itself, ladies and gentlemen. And the second scenario that might be happening in status quo when actually the children haven't reached that, for the example that they are like 14 years old children that must be in the 8 or 9 graders of the middle schools itself, but actually the competency and intelligence haven't reached that this 9 grader or even the eighth graders itself, they must be putting in the competency and intelligence is in the seventh graders, or even in the in the seventh graders itself, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why it will make the society somehow, it will make them stressed. Because why? Because school pushing them as eighth graders or even ninth graders, well actually they haven't capable enough to in that kind of levels, ladies and gentlemen. And in the social, and they will get depressed also, because a lot of society will judge them, they will stupid or somehow like that, and bully them, because they actually don't have like a good perform in the like in the eighth graders or even ninth graders, because it is not it's not their level. So that's why it is really crucial and it's really essential for us by to grouping them by the competency and intelligence itself, ladies and gentlemen. So moving on my second argument, which is how by grouping primary and middle school students based on their competency and intelligence will create a better and happier life. Well, in the status quo, that what I've been stated in my first argument previously, that there must be a pressures and the depressed, but actually the children is not having reached that kind of levels of the schools, but they're pushing them to be in that kind of levels because of their age, because of their grouping by them by their age. So that's why it will make them depressed or even like a pressures and schools itself, ladies and gentlemen. Because why? Because they feel shame when they actually cannot have like a good performance in school. They gonna be feel shame why I cannot do same like what my friends do in that kind of class, because actually they haven't reached that kind of levels. And this will create, and this will actually have the mental of the children itself. It will make like a mental illness, or even it will make them depressed, and it will lead them to death or even like suicide itself, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why ideally children and students must be happy and enjoy at school, where they can enjoy the learning process at schools itself, right? So that's why in here, why? By grouping the primary and middle schools based children based on their capacity and intelligence will create a better and happier life. Because the first one is when they will not depress, and they will not get stressed and pressured, and they will enjoy in the class because they're grouping by the level of the competency itself. And the second one is it will lead them to have a willingness and a serious and like a curiosity to study itself, where at the end of the day, if they will get the material and they will get all of the things and knowledge that given by the students itself, where by the teachers itself, well, where it can lead them that will they will achieve their goals in the future, ladies and gentlemen. Because actually they have already feel that schools is enjoy, schools is good, schools is a safe place for me to study. And the last one is it will also can increase the education standard and the quality itself, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why it will so much better under our side by grouping the children based on intelligence and capacity, and not grouping them but based on their age, because we would like to protect the children and we would like to give them a better and happier life. So for of the reason, I'll raise my case. Thank you.